here. All right, there's that. Let's get Instagram rolling here. Okay. And then drag this. There we go. Something like that. I definitely should have gotten water. My throat is already, and I don't have any water. I don't have anything there.
You did that
Guys,
last
welcome. If you got questions about college recruiting, drop them below. We're going to get to as many questions as we possibly can, as we always do on these live streams. How are we? How's Thursday going? Recruiting questions, drop them below. As always, we're going to get to as many of them as we possibly can. Cade, how's your Thursday going, sir?
It's going great. It's hot, but it's going good.
How hot are we talking here?
Outside, probably 80. Inside, probably 90.
You think it's hotter inside than outside?
That's what it feels like, but it's not true.
Drop your recruiting questions down below. If you got questions about college recruiting, drop them below. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we possibly can. I'm sorry it's hot inside, Kate. That's like my number one thing that I can't stand. I hate when it's hot. All right. So let's see. Questions are coming in. The better the questions we get, the better advice that we can give you guys. So pop in as many of them as we can get. How do I get recruited as a homeschooler? So this is kind of interesting because homeschooling has actually grown in popularity. It's a lot more popular now than it used to be. And that's for a number of reasons. It used to be like when homeschooling used to be like antisocial. Like if you were a homeschooler, you were not going to get socialized as a kid, and it was a huge problem. Homeschooling is way more popular now than it used to be. And so there's a bunch of groups and it's easier to get on teams. And so the socialization aspect is actually much improved. So how do you get recruited as a homeschooler? The process is actually not going to be that much different. Now, I assume even though you're getting homeschooled, you're still playing on a team somewhere. Like you're still playing on a team, either like a local high school team that partners with the homeschool program that you're able to participate in, or you play for a travel or a club team or something like that. Like you're still playing on a team. And so it actually doesn't change your process really at all. You're still doing all the things that you would normally do to get recruited. And so that means all the normal exposure things, whether it's outreach to college coaches or content or showcases in camps or your coaches' connections, whatever it is that you have that you're using for exposure, which should really be all of those things. Mm-hmm. That's still going to apply to you as a homeschooler. So it doesn't really actually change anything in your process. The only other thing that now that I think about it could change, maybe the credentials or like the curriculum that you're in homeschool academically might differ than like a normal high school. And so that's going to change some things. But in terms of like athletically, it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a football player, El Paso, Texas. How hard would it be from El Paso, Texas? I do not judge how hard a recruiting process is going to be by your location. Now, the reason for that is twofold. Well, there's a lot that we could talk about. One is let's admit, though, for sure that some areas are a little bit easier than others. For sure. Okay. But this idea that you can only get recruited out of some areas and not others is completely false. Like that's not true at all. You're in El Paso, Texas. You play football. Football in Texas is like the thing, right? Like that's huge. So you're in the right state. And I know Texas is enormous. And so there's a lot of, you could be in Texas and still not be in an ideal city in Texas for football. Totally understand that, but you're still in Texas. I think about families that are in North Dakota. I think about families that are in Alaska or even Hawaii. Like we've had families in Alaska and Hawaii talk about being in a difficult place to get recruited, right?
Yeah.
Are those places. And so where you are, it can help you a little bit, especially if you're in a talent hotbed. So talent hotbeds would typically be California, Texas, Florida, maybe like even Georgia or north if you're going to go to like New York or something like that. Like the big states are typically where you're going to have hotbeds, which means more coaches are going to be in that area. So it does give you a slight advantage. And in this case, you actually have a little bit of an advantage because you're in the state of Texas. But just for anybody that's listening to this who's thinking, yeah, but I'm not in Texas. I'm in Alaska. You can still get recruited, but you're not going to be able to rely on college coaches stopping by your high school all the time, college coaches coming to watch you play in your city, like probably just not going to happen, right? You're going to have to do more work on your end to get in front of them but that should not be an excuse to not get recruited. Where you are, geographically should not hold you back.
Totally.
Okay. Junior in high school. I think this guy asked a question similar to this yesterday. Junior in high school, got cut from varsity. Remember this one yesterday, Caden?
Yes.
I feel I should have made it, can play at other schools. I don't know if I'll try it again next year. What path should I take to play college basketball? The first thing that I would do is develop physically and develop your skill set and get away onto your high school basketball team. Like, that's the first thing that you need to do. If you can't make that happen, then you're going to need to find some other club team where you can showcase your ability to play. You have to play somewhere. If they don't see you play, if they don't get video, if they don't get stats of some kind, they're not going to be able to recruit you. They're just not. So you're going to need to play somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's not really a better answer to that. You have to play somewhere. My son just accepted an offer from UIW, and recruiting process is exhausting.
Congratulations, though.
Congratulations. That's awesome. But heck yeah, it's exhausting. Actually, I made a video. Okay, do you know I made a video on YouTube the other day? It was like 17 brutal truths that I learned about college recruiting in 2025. And literally the first one that I mentioned in there is that recruiting is hard for everyone.
Yep.
And so basically you might as well make it worth it, because there's not a single family that I've ever met where recruiting was just flat out easy for them. Yeah. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. And so if it's going to be difficult, you might as well make it worth it. Kate, at the same time, I've never met a family who got a $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 scholarship and then look back on the process and was like, nah, wasn't worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Or saying, if it was like an only child saying, I would love to do that again. That was a lot of fun. I've never seen that either. So
no, wouldn't happen. They would not love to do it again, and yet they will do it again because it's worth it, right? And so 100%. If you're going to go through it and it's going to be exhausting emotionally and physically and all these things, you might as well make it worth it.
Yep,
get an offer from a school you love, get an offer from a school that gives you life-changing money. I mean, when you start talking about $200,000 scholarships, you're talking about life-changing money. I mean, that's a lot of money.
100%.
What's your take on athletes coming back from an injury? Are coaches hesitant to look at them, or do they see the growth and comeback as a strength? Neither. So they're not going to be hesitant to look at them unless they're so fresh off of it that it's like, man, are they coming back too early where they're going to get hurt again? But I'm talking about, like, if you're post-injury, right, and you're totally healthy and fine, they're not going to care about that. Injuries are a part of sports. Coaches know that. Yeah. And so I don't think that that's going to be a problem. On the other end, though, I also don't think they're looking at a kid who went through an injury and they're like, man, what a comeback. Like, they're maybe if you have an exceptional injury story, but they're not going to be like, oh, that kid has, more grit than another kid. Maybe deeper into the process. I know that's like a logical thing to think, and it's a nice thing to think, but I don't think that's going to give you like a true advantage in the process. I think really about this just in a logical sense, which is like, you lost a period of time. I don't know how old your kid is, but like you lost a period of time because of the injury. And so maybe you had less contact or less traction or less video or less whatever. And that's kind of it. Like, that's what happened. And that's kind of how I like to look at it. So I'd kind of say it's neither. We've had lots of athletes who have been injured, come back, and coaches are not afraid to recruit those athletes. They're just not. Let's see. How do I get recruited? 13 years old? Not yet. I haven't read the rest of it, but the answer is not yet. I play tennis in Europe. I'm a dual citizen with the United States and Europe. Very cool. Want to play for the Florida Gators. When should I start my search? High school. High school is when I would start the search for you. Let's see. How much social media should there be to stand out to recruiters? So it depends on the sport, right? There's a lot of things that we could talk about when it comes to social media, but it depends on the sport. Some sports rely a lot heavier on social media than others. So we think about football, we think about basketball, very social media heavy. And so for sports like that, you better be on social media, right? If your kid plays something like volleyball, are there coaches who recruit on social media? Absolutely. There's coaches in every sport who recruit on social media. But is that the main way that you're probably going to get recruited? Unlikely. Possible, but unlikely, right? Because of the sport that you play. The other thing, so you say, how much social media should there be to stand out to recruiters? The other thing that I'll say is, despite sport, like we talk a lot about multi-platform exposure. You're going to hear us say that over and over and over. Cade, what is multi-platform exposure? Explain that.
Yeah, so multi-platform exposure could be, just throw an example out there. It could be email, and then it could be Twitter. So being on multiple platforms at one time, and not just limiting yourself to one, because maybe there are some coaches that do strictly recruit from email, and then there's going to be some coaches that maybe they've had a ton of success on Twitter, so that's their main platform there. So using both of those as an advantage can be huge for just more outreach in general.
Yeah, and that's dead on, right? So the number is 59%. We ran a study at the end of 2025, the Recruiting Trends Report. I'll throw it up for anybody that wants to check it out. D1scholarship.com/2026. You can go download our Recruiting Trends Report. We analyzed over 8,000 athletes. How are they getting recruited? And one of the things that we found is that athletes who contact coaches on multiple platforms and get exposure on multiple platforms get 59% more interest from college coaches. That's a significant amount, right? A significant amount. Huge. And so highly recommend, even though some sports have a heavier reliance on social media than others, recommend being on multiple platforms. Wide receiver going into junior year, training 3 days a week. Are college coaches now going to their trainer, now recruiting them? Okay, do you know what they're asking?
I am
Are
not.
college coaches now going to their trainer, now recruiting them? I'm sorry, feel free to throw another question in there. I don't quite understand. Why aren't coaches responding? Because you're not signed up for the email workshop yet on January 20th. No, so like real talk. Okay. There's a number of reasons why a college coach might not respond to your message. Okay. The number one reason, like the first thing that I would even ask is like, are they recruiting your position in grad class? Because you can be totally good enough to play at the school. You can have the perfect script, the perfect email strategy, perfect follow-ups, perfect timing, perfect video, perfect stats, perfect evidence. Literally everything could be perfect. But if they're not recruiting your position in grad class, you're not getting a response.
For sure.
You're not, right? Now, let's say they are, right? Let's say they are. The first thing that you need to ask is, are they even seeing my message? No matter where it is. It could be on social media, it could be on email, but are they even seeing the message? Because they might be recruiting your position in grad class and you might have everything else perfect, but if they don't see the message, then they're not going to respond, right? So it's really just a step-by-step, like is A happening, B, C, D, and there's probably like 15 to 20 things. And we're going to talk about what those are on January 20th at the Email 101 workshop. So if you want to learn all these things about email that we do that have generated thousands of responses, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. It won't break the bank. You can learn a lot. But let's say they open the email, right? Okay, so they actually opened it. Now, what are you writing in the script? Are you giving them the information that they need? Are you giving them too much information that paralyzes them, right? Are you giving them the proper evidence? Let's say they even click on your video to watch it. Is the video set up in a way that's conducive to them actually responding? Right? So there's a lot of steps in between here, and you sort of just go to each one, call it the bottleneck, right? Like you find the bottleneck, you find where everything is shutting down and you solve that problem. And the thing that a lot of people miss, okay, this is actually really important because this is important is like we talk to our families and we encourage them in this, is that there might be multiple figuring out what the bottleneck is, right? Because if you solve are they recruiting my position in grad class, then you move to the opening our emails thing, right? There's 4 pillars of getting high open rates, which we're going to talk about at the email workshop. But like We work through all of those and then we solve that. We might still not get responses yet. We're still working through the script, the evidence, all of these other pieces. And so sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 tries to figure it out. But a lot of people stop after number 1 or they stop after number 2. And the reality is you just keep going until you figure it out. And then once you figure it out, you pour gasoline on the fire and then it erupts. And that's when you get all the
For sure.
right.
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation right there.
Really critical. Oh, now you're just hyping me up, man. 8th grade, 5'2". What do I do to get exposure? I got cut in middle school. I'm on club. You know what? Michael Jordan got cut in high school. It don't matter that you got cut in middle school. Just get better. You know what I'm saying? Like, love the game, whatever it is that you play. Love the game. Get better. Get bigger, faster, stronger. Develop your skills. Like, practice way more than everybody else. Yeah. And this is one thing that I'm going to see if I can explain this well enough. I don't think I've ever tried to explain this before. And so cut me some slack here, okay? But here's what I'm saying. If you are a 4 out of 10 player, meaning like 1 out of 10 is a terrible player and 10 out of 10 is the best player on earth, let's say you're a 4 out of 10 player, all right? There's another player on your team who is a 7 out of 10 player, okay? If you do the exact same amount of reps as that player does, you will never surpass them. They're already ahead of you.
Yep.
So you can't just do the exact same as that person. You have to do more than that person. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is the amount more that you need to do, because they think, oh, if they're putting in an hour, I'll put in an hour and a half or 2 hours and I'll catch up. No, because that person is still ahead of you. So you're still going to be way behind. And so typically, if you're going to catch up to somebody who's already better than you, you can't do 2 times the work or 3 times the work. You typically have to do 10 times the work to catch up to them. And so what I would say is, you're in middle school. You're so young. You have so much time to improve as a player. Gosh, like, I'm sure I was pretty bad in middle school, right? You can get better, but it takes an incredible amount of reps. And people underestimate how many reps we're talking about, right? A lot of reps, because you have to catch up to players who might be ahead of you. And so, hey, you're in 8th grade and you're like, how do I get exposure? Don't worry about exposure. Go do 10 times the reps as all your friends and teammates. Get better. And then once you're better and you're making the teams and you're better than all your friends, then you can start worrying about exposure. But you have to have talent. Without talent, evidence and exposure are meaningless. And actually, Cade, remember that one where it was like, oh, the recruiting process is exhausting. We said, yeah, it's exhausting, but if you get what you're looking for, it's totally worth it. And the guy says, yeah, I totally agree. It was worth it.
Yeah. Sweet.
Let's see. My daughter just got a D1 swim offer after last weekend's visit. Congratulations. That's amazing. On another visit this weekend. Is negotiating a thing after offer is received, or she should just take what is given? No, you can negotiate. Now, keep in mind, only negotiate if you're not happy with what you currently have. You know what I mean? Because anytime you negotiate, there is a risk that they will pull the offer. Okay. So you only negotiate if you're unhappy with what you have. I'll give you an example. If you get a 50% scholarship and you're like, that's good for me. Like, we can pay for that. This is a school that she loves. We're good to rock and roll. Don't negotiate. Don't negotiate for the sake of negotiating because you feel like you should. That's a dumb reason, okay? But if you're going, man, we got a 50% scholarship, I don't want to pay that much. Like, I just don't think that we can pay that much. And we have another school that's giving us 80%. Like, that would be a lot easier on us. And so you're debating saying no to this 50% because of the money. That's a great reason to negotiate. And then you totally can. And the easiest way to do that is, let's say the example that I just gave you, 50 and 80%. You simply tell the 50% school, listen, I love this school, but another school is giving me 80%, and that's a lot easier on my family financially. Can you get close to 80%? Can you maybe match that offer? No, maybe they can, maybe they can't. But you asking that question is totally reasonable. And we've had many athletes who have received higher scholarship offers after the original one because we leveraged another offer. But don't just leverage an offer for the sake of leveraging an offer. It's not the move. Don't play games like that. But if you're like, I don't know that we're going to go because of that, then totally leverage it. The last thing that I'll say about this, which is really important, Is if you ask the 50% school to match the 80% school, you better be ready to take the 50% offer if they come back and give you 80%. Because think about the way it looks if you say, hey, I got 50% here, 80% here. Will you match this? And they say, okay, yeah, we'll match it. And then you go, okay, well, let me wait and see what some of my other options are. They're like, we just met your demands. Like we just gave you what you were asking for. It's not a good look, and you'll really piss those coaches off. So I wouldn't play that leverage card until you're ready to say, if this school does actually match that offer, I'm going to take it. Then it's a totally perfect reason to do it. So you got to be careful about the way that you're navigating that. What was the turning point that helped you grow D1 Scholarship into a trusted brand? Okay, that's not really a recruiting question, but sure, I'll give you the quick 60-second spiel. The turning point was when what worked for me started working for other people. Right. So when I first started it 5 years ago, we were actually called Baller Builder at the time. That was a long time ago. We were called Baller Builder, and I hadn't really helped very many other people. I gave it to the stuff that worked for me. I gave it to my sister. She earned a D1 scholarship to play softball. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I gave it to a family friend, and he got a D1 scholarship, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And so I had an inkling, right? I had a little bit of proof that, hey, this doesn't just work for me. This is like a real thing. So I started sharing everything that I had learned online. That was a turning point for sure. Back 5 years ago, I was sharing a ton of content, and we had, and so that was a turning point. But the real turning point was actually, I'd probably say middle of last year, middle of 2025. Because at that point we were really pushing a lot of success stories and testimonials. Yep. And when what you're doing is working, not just for other people, but 14 other sports, tens of millions of dollars in scholarships, consistently, that's when you're like, oh, okay, this stuff works. and I think that was the turning point. And so I don't know if you're trying to grow your own recruiting thing or your own training thing or something like that. I'll make it really easy for you. This is the cycle. Teach people what to do, get results, post results on social media so other people see that you're getting results. That will bring more people in that you can teach, which will get you more results, which means you can post more, and you just do that cycle in an infinite thing until you have so many results that people are just like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. That's literally, that's the game. Should you tag coaches on social media or not? Just wondering how you get them to notice you or even follow you. Great question. Okay. Tagging, I think, is one of those things that a lot of people misunderstand on social media. I think there is a greater emphasis on tagging than there should be. And I think the reason for that is because people aren't really sure, kind of like your question, people aren't really sure how to generate interest and traction on social media without tagging. So their solution is, well, I'm just going to tag them. And I think that we, just so you know, here at D1 Scholarship, we use tagging very sparingly. You're not going to see our athletes tagging a whole bunch of accounts all the time. We do tag, but strategically. Other ways that you can get coaches to follow you, one is follow them. It sounds really basic, but you would be surprised how many people don't follow college coaches. And you would be really surprised how many people follow college coaches one time. I'm not going to go super deep into that, but there's a little nugget in there. The second thing is posting content on social media. If you post enough of the right content, you will get coaches to see it and you will get coaches to follow you. The third thing is, by the way, this actually should be done before anything else that you do, which is profile optimization. You need to optimize your profile so that when coaches land on it, they actually do follow you. Because you could generate a whole bunch of traction and traffic to your profile through following coaches, sending DMs, posting content, and a whole bunch of them get to your profile, and then they don't follow you. They click off, right? And so actually the first thing before you do anything else is optimizing your profile to get the maximum number of coaches to follow you or message you. That's the number one thing. Once that's fixed, and that's the first thing that we'll do with the family on social media before we do anything else, then you can worry about traffic. Follows, content, and DMs are really going to be the big three for you. Okay, do you have anything to add on that? Did I miss anything?
No, I really like that as well. One thing that I will add, and I do see it quite a bit, it's in relation to the optimization, is I see a lot of times athletes are really supportive of their friends, but they're almost a little bit too supportive of their friends and not of themselves, where they will be reposting all of their friend stuff, but then they won't want to brag about themselves and post about themselves. And I mean, it's kind of like a coach reading a long email. You don't want them to have to scroll through like make the page refresh 3 times before they get to a single one of your posts because you're reposting all of your friend stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I would add to that for sure.
That's so critical. You guys pick up on that? That's so good. And this is what people will do a lot, right? They will repost their friends' content. So a coach lands on your profile to learn more about you, and instead they see your friends. And they're like, well, I wanted to see about this kid. So guess what they do, guys? They go, oh, but your friend looks kind of interesting. And then they click on your friend's profile instead, which is really generous of you. But remember, this is your profile. You're working hard to get coaches to get on there, right? And so I'm not saying you can't repost your friends, encourage your friends. You can totally do that. But you have to make sure the ratio is right so that the majority is still you on your profile. If you want to encourage your friends, go on their posts and comment and like and all of that stuff. You can do stuff that won't end up on your profile, but still encourage them, right? So I'm not saying don't be a good teammate. Don't do stuff like that, but be smart about it, right? How do you approach schools that aren't responding to emails or DMs? I don't care. I don't care. Like if a coach doesn't respond once to one email, if a coach doesn't respond to 3 emails, if a coach doesn't respond to 4 DMs, I don't care. You need to send dramatically more than you think. Yeah. And a lot of people assume that if a coach hasn't responded, after 2 emails, they're just not interested. No, this is like an ongoing thing. This is an ongoing thing. I'm not going to go there, but yes, is the point. Like, I don't care if they don't respond. And that's not true. I do care because we want responses, and like we get a lot of responses, and responses are really important. And we'll talk about how to get those responses at the Email 101 workshop. If you want to come, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. But like, I'm just going to keep sending. We're going to keep sending. We're going to keep doing it because the number of athletes who have not gotten responses for 6 months and then get an offer is insane. Like insane. Most people just don't have the perseverance or the belief or the time, I guess, to do that. But the reality is you should just keep going.
And if you're not an organized person, you can forget as well. It's super easy to just forget things, especially if your email is a mess or your social media is a complete mess. Could forget about it.
Totally. 2026, 6-1, middle hitter still looking, has 1 D2 offer on the table, turned down a D2 offer going on a D3 visit. Now fully paid for. Is D1 totally off the table at this point? Are we too late? Based on your sport, I'm going to say probably off the table. But remember, and I've said this before, there is no absolute there. There's not. I got recruited to a Division I Pac-12 school with a 40% scholarship a month and a half before I was supposed to step on campus. Like, would someone have told me? Would I have told myself that it was too late? Like, I'd be like, man, probability's not good, but it can still happen. And so I'm not going to say, is it totally off the table? No, it's not totally off the table. Is it likely? No, it's not likely. The other thing I'm curious about is you said turn down a D2 offer. If you turned it down because they gave you a deadline and they're like, listen, we need to know now, then totally fine. Turn it down and you don't have. But if they didn't give you that and they just gave you an offer and then you said, nah, I'm not interested, that's a mistake. You never want to actually turn down an offer until you commit to another school or unless they give you an ultimatum or a deadline. That was a huge mistake. I remember talking to Charla, which I dropped that test. Did you see that testimonial interview? I'm trying to edit all of them right now. I'm super behind. And so I'm just like pumping out like 2 of them a day, and then I'm trying to put them in Slack so you guys can see them. Yeah, awesome. But Charla had some friends that she sent our way, and they were struggling in the process. And one of the things that they were doing, there's one family in particular that I'm thinking about. They got some lower level offers, and then they just told them, now we're not interested. And it's such a mistake. It's such a mistake. If they say we need to know right now, then fine, you can say no. But it's such a mistake if they don't give you a deadline to just offer voluntarily up. No, I'm not interested. I'm not going to go here. That's a major mistake. You're going to miss out on other potential offers if you do that. It's not the move. What subject line or intros get the best email open rate from college coaches? Come to the workshop on January 20th. Email 101 workshop. I'm going to show everything that we've done. I've tested. Kate, I was trying to do the math. I said I've tested dozens of scripts, but I'm pretty sure it's like easily in the hundreds.
Yes.
And like so many of them didn't work. And then that led us to the ones that like work really well.
Yeah.
And so all of that stuff, that's what I'm going to share at the email workshop, d1scholarship.com/email workshop, 90-minute session, going to be live. I'm going to be teaching it. It's going to be thebomb.com. Come hang out. How do we get in contact with recruiting coaches? Is that still a thing? By recruiting coaches, do you mean like the recruiting coordinator? Do you mean coaches who do recruiting? Is that still a thing? That's like the thing. That's recruiting. So it is. But of course, I guess it depends a little bit. I'm going to add a caveat that I normally wouldn't add in this case. But the caveat is if your kid is the Alabama quarterback who's getting $6.5 million NIL deals thrown at him to try to not go to the NFL. You might not be dealing with the recruiting coordinator. That's like a different story, right? But for 98% of athletes, you're still dealing with coaches who are doing recruiting. That's still the primary way that kids are getting recruited, 100%. What are those multiple platforms for a softball player? X, Insta. Am I missing others for my 2029? No, X and Insta are really where I'd be. But of course, keep in mind, I say platforms, but a platform is anywhere where you can get exposure. And so technically like a showcase and a camp could be a platform. Now, if you've been around here at all, you know how we talk about showcases and camps and not using them as your primary method of exposure, but rather attending events for schools you're already talking to save you tens of thousands of dollars. That's typically how we would talk about them, right? But that's still a platform for exposure. And so in terms of specifically social media platforms, X and Insta are going to be huge. YouTube is also a social media platform, which is where we host a lot of our video content. But I don't think about it in terms of getting organic views from college coaches on YouTube, like coaches finding players on YouTube. I don't think that happens a lot. We just drive traffic to YouTube. But in terms of like social media, posting content, those platforms, X and Insta are your spots. I'm hearing that a lot of trainers now are getting kids D1 scholarships because of a lot of college coaches are coming to their trainers recruiting them. This is not this is a variation of college coaches going to a high school coach or a traveler club coach as a connection. The only difference is that it's a trainer. I'm hearing that a lot of trainers now, I would be careful. And the only reason that I'm saying that is because a lot of parents will hear 3 people say that, and then they'll say, oh, this must just be how it's happening for everybody. And so they'll take like a very small sample size and apply it to everybody. And like, that's not accurate. And so I'd be careful about that. But I don't know. We generate a lot of scholarships and a lot of offers. I make 0 calls on behalf of any of our athletes. Cade makes 0 calls. Connor makes 0 calls. We don't rely on any trainers or coaches, like club coaches or high school coaches. We don't rely on any of that, and we do all right. So
just don't put all your marbles in a trainer or a coach.
Yeah. Do you remember the number from the trends report, Cade? For how many players say that coach connections are their primary method of getting discovered by college coaches?
4.5.
It is 4.5. That's correct. Yeah. So 4.5% of athletes and families say that their coaches connections is their primary way of getting on college coaches' radars. That gets outclassed by email, social media, showcases and camps, even recruiting services, like almost everything else, to give you an idea. And that wasn't a sample size of 3. It was a sample size of over over 8,000. How do you know what level players are realistically being targeted? D1, D2, JUCO. I have a hot take here. Here's my hot take. Talent evaluation is a myth. The idea that someone can look at a player and be like, this is where you belong because I've been in the industry for 20 years. Okay, I have two pieces of proof that I'll share. The one that I always share first and foremost is if talent evaluation were really that black and white, you would never have a first round draft pick bust.
Yeah.
It would never happen. Every single first round draft pick would turn out to be an absolute stud. And we know that doesn't happen in every single sport.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So talent evaluation, and those are people who spend all day long scouting players. They're supposed to be the best talent evaluators in the world, and they get it wrong all the time. So that's my first piece of evidence. The second piece of evidence is I played in a game. I was getting recruited by two schools. They came to the same game. So you had two coaches watching the same game, same player, same plays, same everything. One of those schools was a lot better than the other school, okay? The school that wasn't as good looked at me and was like, kid's not good enough to play here. Like, he's not going to be good enough for our team. The school that was significantly better, and when I say significantly better, I mean an SEC school, looked at me and was like, that's our guy, and ended up giving me a full ride scholarship. It's like they were watching the same game, same everything. The school that was better, you would have said, oh, the kid's not good enough. But that's not what happened. And the answer is why? And it's just because talent evaluation is an opinion. It's an opinion. That's what it is. Unless your kid runs track or swims, because in those, it's just times. Like who's the fastest, who's not fastest, that's it. But in skill-based sports, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, softball, water polo, rugby, like all of those sports, video, in-person evaluation, talent evaluation is an opinion. So let me answer your question directly. How do you know what level of players are realistically being targeted at, and D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO? The only talent evaluation that I care about is what college coaches think, because they're the ones who give out the scholarships. Yeah. So here's how we do it. Really barbaric. We contact a lot of schools at every division level and see who responds. And if you're like, it's 2026, that's how you're doing it? Yeah. And it works. And it's the most accurate form of talent evaluation, period. Because the reality is that every single SEC school could look at your kid and say, not good enough to play here. But if one of them says they are, then they're an SEC caliber player. Yeah. That's crazy to think about, right? So I'm not big on talent evaluation. A lot of parents watching this, like, I get it, okay? You want someone who's unbiased because you know that you have parent goggles. Every parent I've talked to knows this. They know this. They know that they have parent goggles looking at their kid. They're like, I just want somebody who's unbiased to tell me how good my kid is. And so what they do is they go to their club coach or their high school coach, and they say, what level do you think we're capable of playing at? The problem is that coach is self-motivated. Their sole goal is to reduce conflict. Their goal is not to give you an accurate evaluation. It's to give you an answer that doesn't piss you off and doesn't make you a high maintenance parent. That's their goal. Then you say, well, I'm going to pay a third party group to do a talent evaluation on my kid that's unbiased, right? Again, I would say, remember, people who scout for a living get it wrong. So why this third party random person could do a better job, I don't know. But also you pay them $500 for an evaluation. You just gave them a bunch of money, right? They probably have other things they want to sell you. You think they are going to come and give you an honest evaluation? No, they're going to tell you what you want to hear so that you give them more money, right? And so, like, as a parent, I'm telling you, it's the most work and it's the most annoying, and it's literally the worst. But the best way to get a talent evaluation is to contact schools at every level and see who responds. It's the best. That's my soapbox for today.
One thing I want to add to that is you mentioned first round draft picks. Why are some of them busts? Well, those are professionals who are drafting them. Like these general managers and head coaches are paid millions and millions to evaluate these guys. And I mean, knowing from experience, because my teams have made some pretty terrible decisions in drafts and in trades, it's they get it wrong sometimes. So why trust the third party that like fully trust them? Say, hey, yeah, you're a D1 player for sure. No, you're not even close to a D1 player. So that's what I want to add, just because I've been burnt by that a couple times.
And I get it because it's hard. It's hard as a parent, right? Like you don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste money if your kid is not capable of it, right? Like I totally get that. But if that's the case, just put in enough time to get an actual accurate representation to get a real answer. Because what a tragedy it would be if you got an evaluation from somebody and it came back significantly lower than you thought or something like that, and your kid was actually capable of way more. What a trap, but you never knew that because you didn't put in the work to figure out what they were actually capable of. It's actually pretty common. This has happened a number of times with our families. They'll come in thinking, you know what? Hey, I got realistic views. My kid's not a D1 player. We're just going to contact D2, D3, NAIA, and we'll come in and we'll say, hey, totally cool. Glad you have realistic, a realistic view on this, but don't put a ceiling on your kid until we really know. I think that we should contact some D1 schools. And there have been families. I think of the one that I'm thinking of right now is Camille, because she sent us a message after being in. I could find this, I think, pretty quickly here. Where's Camille? Yeah. So check this out, right? And I love this because I think this is a perfect example of what we're talking about here. So, and then let me add this to the stage. This is a message from a family. Okay. Just want to take a moment to update you on the progress we've made over 30 days. Everything changed when we started working with you. In just 4 short weeks, we've gone from talking to 5 schools to having conversations with 25. Here's the important part though. We've even received interest from some major schools that we never would have considered before. Your encouragement has really opened doors for us.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is we didn't think we were capable of even having conversations with some of these major schools, but you said, hey, why not try? So we did. And it turns out, oh my gosh, we actually got some of them. Yeah. Right. And that's amazing. And so don't put a ceiling on your kid because you don't know what they're actually capable of. And of course, on the flip side, some of you probably think your kid is the next Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that's
and they're not. And so like it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Either way, you're getting an accurate talent evaluation by contacting multiple schools at each level. And that's the way that you're going to get the best talent evaluation. How many times do you follow up with the coach before moving on? At the email workshop, we'll show you exactly how many we do like in the first campaign, but we'll typically do batches. Okay. So, and I'll say this, I really don't have a problem with someone messaging a coach forever. Like for literally more than a year. I don't have a problem with it. And if a coach then says, hey, we're not interested, please stop messaging me. Okay, then stop messaging. Okay. We're not trying to be annoying. But sometimes it just takes a little bit longer.
Yep.
And I've had players who contacted a school 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times without getting a response the first time. Mm-hmm. Right. And getting a response eventually. It's like, so if you have it in you, there's not really a limit. Need some advice for my son who should receive some offers this contact period, 6'5", 225, class of 28. What do you need advice on? If there's like a specific question that you have, it'll be easier for me to help you out. Athlete rankings, softball specific. Should we be subscribing to those companies to get ranked? Does it help in the recruiting process? It's not going to hurt you. It's also probably not going to make a big difference for you. So think about it. In order for you to get ranked, you have to pay, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like there are families who aren't very good who are getting ranked because they paid. And there are families who are very good who are not getting ranked because they didn't pay. And guess who knows that? College coaches. I think a lot whenever I think about this one, Kate, I think about Hugh
Yeah.
and Misty, because this is good. So this is a football example, but hopefully, but it applies to every sport. So we had this kid, and the mom messaged me, and the kid is super talented. He got 18 offers in 3 weeks. I mean, just like exceptionally talented. Not, if we're being honest, not the typical clientele that we get, right?
For
Normally
sure.
we get athletes who are good players and deserve to play in college, but they're not like the top 10 players in the country.
For sure.
This kid was very, very talented. So he had 18 offers in 3 weeks. His mom comes to me and she goes, "Hey, Jack, how do we get stars?" I was like, "Stars?" She was like, "Yeah, how do we get stars?" And I said, "Sure, Misty, like I can answer that, but why do you want stars?" And she said, "Well, his teammates, they all, they're not really as good as him, but they have stars." And I said, "Well, Misty, do they have offers?" She was like, "No." And I said, "Would you rather have offers or would you rather have stars?" And she got it. She's like, "Okay, I get it. Yeah, I would rather have offers." And the reality is that you don't need is that always prioritize the offers over the stars, over the rankings. You don't need the rankings. Of course, they're not going to hurt you. Like, it doesn't hurt you to be on a top rankings list. Does that guarantee that you're going to get recruited? Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Are you going to have to do way more than that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So keep in mind, if you have to subscribe to a company to get ranked, you're paying for your ranking. You're not getting ranked because of your talent.
You're not earning the ranking.
You're not earning it, right?
For sure.
Awesome. Thanks for the advice. We'll see how this weekend goes. Super excited to be done with this. Yeah, I don't blame you. Listen, I do this for a living. We do this for a living. I am not under any guise or impression that the recruiting process is somehow fun. Guys, it's not. Okay, it's not. But here's what I can tell you. Okay, I can tell you 3 things. I'm going to try to remember these now that they just flooded to me. The first one is it might not be fun, but if you get it right, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
The second thing is you will form memories in the recruiting process that you will have forever that are very unique and you won't be able to replicate in the rest of your kid's life. So I think about, the early morning drives that I had with my dad. And it was just me and him in the car, 6 a.m., driving to the middle of nowhere for an event. And it's just me and my dad. And the sun is rising over the horizon. We're getting pulled over by cops for going 85. And it's, those are memories, man, that we'll never get back. My dad and I will never do that again. When I went to college, we weren't doing that. When I played pro ball, we weren't doing that. Now that we're not playing pro ball, we're not doing that. Do we go on road trips sometimes? Yeah. But is it the same? No, it's not the same thing. The amount of time that we got to spend at games and at tournaments and together, the bonds that were forged then are unlike anything else. And so, yeah, the recruiting process sucks in a lot of ways, and it's not fun. But don't lose the fact that there are memories that happen in the recruiting process that are amazing. And then the third thing I'd say about the recruiting process is the life lessons that your kid will learn are unparalleled to anything else that they could do. I remember talking to, you don't know Josh S. from a long time ago, right, Cade? That was before you.
Probably before me.
Son was Eli. Awesome family, committed to one of the top academic schools in the country. And one of the things that Josh said, the dad said, was, man, Eli is more prepared for the real world coming out of high school than I was coming out of college. He's learned how to generate conversations like sale, because that's what recruiting is. It's basically a sales process applied to recruiting. He's learned sales skills that I never learned until I was 30 years old. He learned communication skills, phone calls. How do I speak to people and present myself in a good way? Also, how do I do that to people who are 20 years older than I am? Yeah. Right? Also a very valuable skill. Learning the ability to deal with rejection. Yeah. Very important life skill. Learning to deal with adversity, very important life skill. Learning to operate in a business world, because this is a business transaction. You're talking about 150 grand in some cases, 200 grand for a scholarship. That is a business deal. And so a kid getting to do all of that before they even step foot on a college campus somewhere is an incredible head start in life. and it's one of the best teachers. And so, yes, the recruiting process is not necessarily fun, but it can be worth it. You can make memories that you can't get anywhere else, and you can learn life lessons that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. I think that's something that's super underrated. You don't hear that very often. So that's great.
I should probably make a video about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I need to remind myself to make a video about that. What did I just say? What, like, I would have sent myself a message right now. What were we just talking about? Oh, recruiting sucks, but worth it, like money. And then we said memories. And then we said, what was the third thing? Life lessons.
Life lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, guys, expect to see that video soon. Okay. When's the best time to send out emails to try to get recruited by coaches? So the thing about timing with something like email is that are there better times than others to contact college coaches? Yes, for sure. Okay, for sure. If you contact them, for instance, during season, you're probably going to get lower response rates than if you contact them after season. Typical. Okay. However, you should always be contacting college coaches. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that you don't know who's still recruiting and who's not recruiting. Some coaches will shut down recruiting during season. They're like, I'll deal with this after season. Okay. But there are some coaches who still recruit during season. And if you assume nobody's recruiting during season, you're going to miss out on a chance to connect with those coaches who still are. Yeah. Don't act like you know how recruiting works so well that this is when you should send these. No, that's arrogant. That's arrogant. You're going to miss out. There's plenty of times where someone I've gotten, okay, this has actually happened a number of times. I'll get a message from somebody who's like, yeah, we're not sending emails right now because we know that we won't get responses for our sport. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, we have kids who are in your grad class at your kid's position in your kid's sport, sending emails and getting responses right now. So I don't know who you think you are, that you're the recruiting genie, that you can determine and read coaches' minds, because you're welcome to just not do anything right now, but like, we're going to keep doing stuff and we're getting it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I've had that conversation more than once. That's for sure.
And then the second thing is, just because they're less likely to respond during season, for instance, doesn't mean they're still not recruiting.
Yeah.
So they might not respond during season, but they're still watching your videos. They're still putting your name on the whiteboard. They're still having conversations with the staff about you. They're just not engaging in conversation with you. So you're still making progress. You just don't see it because it's happening behind the scenes. Guess when that shows up? When season's over.
Yep.
And now brand new athletes are messaging them saying, oh, now I know you're recruiting, because season's over. Yeah. But actually, they've been watching you for 4 months. You're way above their list than someone that they just learned about. Not even close to the same thing. And so there are times that you're more likely to get responses than others. We'll talk about this at the Email 101 workshop, by the way. D1scholarship.com/email workshop, January 20th, going to be live. It's going to be awesome. We'll talk about this more. I'll go deeper into this. There are times that are better to send than others, but you should always be sending. Let's see. Sorry, cut me off. What I was asking was, my son is a QB, 2028, 6'5", 225. This high school contact period should be a big one for him. What does he need to do to pick up offers when they call him in class? The first thing is, you are not going to be able to force them to give you offers. There is not a magic sentence that you can say that's going to make them give you offers. Unless you already have offers, then the closest thing you're going to get to a magic sentence is, I already have offers and I'm getting closer to committing. Do you want to be a part of the conversation? Okay, fine. Then that's a magic sentence. But like, you're coming at it, you don't have offers yet, right? So you're not going to have that magic sentence, which I'm using very loosely. There's no such thing as a magic sentence or a silver bullet. But really, what does he need to do to pick up offers? That's a very loaded question. Everything that we talk about, right? Generating a lot of interest, being on multiple platforms, having extensive evidence, different types of evidence, frequent evidence, leveraging the offers that you do have. All of those types of things are going to be really important. So I know that's probably not the answer that you're looking for. You're like, yeah, but what do I need to do? No, like, that's what I'm saying. It's everything. It's everything that we've been talking about. There's not a silver bullet there. Besides, if you do get an offer, start telling other people that you got an offer. It'll probably lead to more offers. What's the top social media platform that coaches recruit off of? How would you answer that, Cade?
It depends on the sport. Absolutely. I know I'm looking at the comments. I see this is basketball, which is most of the time Twitter. Heard mixed reviews on Instagram. Obviously, the more you can on Instagram, awesome. If not, Twitter is going to be super important. And then also email is super important. But like I said at first, it definitely depends on the sport.
Yeah. That's dead on. I don't have anything to add. If your club travel team, and then there was a clarification, is not nationally ranked or relatively known outside of your home state, should you consider moving teams or trying out for one of those bigger club teams out of state? Keep in mind, there are always exceptions. Okay. So take this with a grain of salt. I say this pretty much every live stream, but it's so critical that you guys understand this. There are very rarely absolutes in recruiting. A lot of it depends. And so I'm giving general advice here. Okay. I might give different advice to somebody that I'm talking to in a program behind closed doors. Okay. So just take this with a grain of salt. Take it as I'm just learning, not specific advice for you. Okay. In most cases, I would not do that. I don't think that you going to a bigger club outside of your state, that's a lot of effort to put in and a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of hassle that I don't think is going to make a massive difference for you. Okay. There's a couple things on this. Also, will it make a difference? Let's start there. Will it make a difference? It'll probably make a little bit of a difference. I just don't know that it'll be worth all of the sacrifices that you'll have to make, because it does help if you're on a really big nationally ranked team. When you're contacting a coach, you being able to say, I play for this team, does not guarantee you a response or anything, but it does help you a little bit. Right. And the other thing I normally talk about when we're talking about like big teams is it is typically easier for coaches to see you in person and evaluate you in person, because your big nationally ranked team is probably playing at all the major tournaments and showcases where coaches were already planning on going to. So that makes it easier for them to be there rather than your small team playing at a random 4-team event. And it's like college coaches are going to have to go way out of their way to come watch you. Less likely, right? Those are the ways in which it can be beneficial. Okay. But I want to tell you this story, which is we had a soccer player in the last 6 months, let's say, and that player did not play for an MLS Next or ECNL team. Now, if you don't know anything about soccer, those are the two big leagues for men's soccer. And there are an astounding amount of people who believe if you don't play in one of those two leagues, you're not getting recruited to play D1. And in fact, it's very unlikely that you're getting recruited to play anywhere. Okay. There's a lot of people who will say that. And this athlete didn't play in either one of those leagues. He played in what would typically be considered like the lowest level league. And he talked to other people, recruiting advisors, experts, who told him, you're not going to be able to play D1. You might not even play in college. You got to get out in one of these leagues. And the dad was like, I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me. And so he asked me that. And I was like, no, you don't need to do that. And I wasn't just selling them. No, they came in, they ended up talking to over 100 schools. They got, ended up with, I think before he committed, 10 offers, all D1, more than $1 million in scholarships, and committed to an incredible D1 academic school with a $240,000 athletic scholarship.
Definitely one of my favorite stories for sure.
It's incredible, right? And then the kid went back to those people and was like, hey, just so you know, like, not like arrogant. The kid is not like that, but went back and was like, hey, just so you know, like, this can happen, like and they were literally dumbfounded. They were like, how, right? Yeah. And it's just a narrow mindset, thinking that you have to play for one of those teams. You don't have to play for one of those teams. But also, if you play for a small random team, don't use showcases and camps as your primary method of exposure. It's not going to work out for you, right? I picked up on that nugget. I hear you, Jack. Nice. Go get it. Love all the advice. Been following you from the outside for a long time. It all works. Awesome. Thanks so much. One of the things I love, obviously I love when our clients get like big time scholarships and stuff. But I love when people use like the free advice.
Yeah,
like if free advice works for you, cool. The problem is when you think you're too smart and the free advice is not working for you, like, okay, then don't do it. And like, I think some people think that the people who pay for recruiting help are dumb.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they don't know up from down. No, we have like really smart parents,
Yeah.
like really smart parents who just don't have that, you know, like
Yeah.
they don't have the recruiting knowledge, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see. Male sophomore soccer player. I have options next year to play abroad, but at a reputable prep school or an emerging residential academy. The academy likely offers me the best environment to improve, but is there more? The prep school is a more established route to university. Where would you recommend I go? Thanks for the context. I have to tell you, I would need more context. Okay, so there's additional follow-up questions that I would ask, and take it with a grain of salt. I don't know you. I don't know your family. I don't know your situation. I don't know the schools that you're talking about or the academies. I know nothing. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. That's why I'm not going to give you like a dead answer, like this is what I would do. But the way that I would think about it is go where you're going to play the most, because if you're not going to play, you can't be evaluated. You can't get video. You can't get stats. You can't do anything. Go where you're going to play, and go where it's easiest for college coaches to see you. That's it. That would really be my advice. How much is the email workshop? Email workshop right now is $129. It's $129. And my goal is to deliver easily over $500 worth of value. That's the goal. And actually, someone messaged me about the email info which basically I'll be teaching at the workshop. I got a message from someone 3 days ago. It was Angela.
Mm-hmm.
And they got, how much did I say in Slack? I'm trying to remember what the number was. Like 30, 40,000 a year. I'm trying to remember what the number was. Point is many times that is the point. And they had the same information that I'll be teaching on January 20th. In fact, I'll actually be teaching more and better information on the 20th. So 129, not going to break the bank, less than a showcase. Come hang out. 39 a year.
39 a year.
Yeah. So 160, 156.
Yeah.
Yeah. 156.
Insane.
It's not too shabby. Email workshop, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. The prep school is a more, I already answered that one. Sorry. What if the coach responds? Isabel, I want to praise you. You've asked like 7 or 8 questions, and I have no problem answering your questions. You ask awesome questions. I really appreciate you. I think you're doing a fantastic job. What if a coach responds to your email in a general way and responds, come to our camp? How much of an effort should you make to go if it's you reaching out to them and it's their first response? The first thing is, don't take offense to it being you reaching out to them rather than them reaching out to you. Does not matter. Okay. Does not matter. There's plenty of people where the coach reaches out first and it's still generic and they're just trying to get camp invites and signups. Okay. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. Should have gotten water. So how much of an effort should you make to go? What I would do is I wouldn't ask how much of an effort should I make to go? The question I'd ask is how much of an effort should I make to make sure that this is legitimate? And the answer is a lot of effort, right? So really what you're looking for, I think I've talked about this the last couple of days, so I don't want to hit on this too hard because if people have been here multiple times, I don't want to give the same info, but we talk a lot about meaningful connections and frequent conversations. So you're either talking to them frequently. So rather than just one invite from them, you're having back and forth dialogue. The more dialogue you're having, the more worth it the event probably is. But the second piece of that is meaningful conversation. Are they saying things? They might not even be communicating with you frequently, but are they saying things that make it meaningful? Hey, loved your video. Hey, can you send me your season schedule? Hey, can we hop on a call? Those types of things are leading indicators that they're interested and the camp is worth it, right? And so I would focus more on how much more dialogue can you generate with them and how much more meaningful can you make that dialogue. That's how I would determine whether it's worth it to go to the camp. I wouldn't try to make a decision just based on the one camp response that you got. Someone said, thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Why are coaches ignoring my emails? We had another question that was very similar to that, that I've kind of already answered. So I'm just going to point you to the email workshop on January 20th. Okay. Sophomore beach volleyball, 2 college camps, same weekend. 1 college, 0 responses from the coach. 2nd college, I am going to a 2-day camp another weekend. Coach has emailed phone number for after June. Where's the rest of that message? It's cut off. I don't know, but I'd be very hesitant for the school that hasn't responded. Yeah, Mark says how even in time sports they can see consistency. Someone who gets a best time once is different from someone who is consistently trending better. Totally. And this is why it's important to have a lot of evidence, not just one piece of evidence, right? This is why you need consistent production of evidence. The one sort of caveat, it's not a sort of caveat because I agree with everything that Mark just said. I don't disagree with any of that. This is like an add-on to that, which is that in the study that we did in the trends report at the end of 2025, one of the things that we did see though, and that we did notice is that the better your athlete is, the less evidence they need. Okay. So for instance, if your kid, I'm going to go super extreme here. If your kid is top 50 in the country, they're just looks like they were made in a lab, incredibly skilled, like just booming off the charts, right? If that's your kid, a coach might be able to see him play one time and be like, yeah, the kid's got it. Like, this isn't that hard to understand. But as they're inversely proportionate, right? So let's see if I can do this right. As the talent level increases, the quantity of evidence decreases. You don't need as much. As the talent quality decreases, the amount of evidence required increases because coaches need to see that you didn't just get lucky, that you did it over and over and over and over and over again, right? And so if you're sitting there going, my kid is not a top 100 player, which majority of you should probably feel that way considering that less than 1% of athletes are, right? So most of you are probably in the camp where like your kid is good. We call them good, not great. They're good enough to play in college, but they're not great enough to get recruited on talent alone. If that describes your kid, you need a lot of evidence because coaches are not just going to look at your kid do something amazing one time and be ready to give him an offer. They're going to need to see him do it over and over and over and over and over again. The other important thing to note about this is talent is only one piece of the equation. I'll give you a second piece. There's actually multiple pieces, but the second piece is fit. There have been times, plenty of times, this happens all the time actually, a coach looks at a player and knows that they're good enough to play at their school. Talent-wise, they have what it takes. But fit-wise, they don't think they'll fit into their scheme. They don't think they'll fit into their program, right? It's like if your kid is a quarterback. I'm just picking an example that comes to mind. Your kid is a quarterback and chucks the ball and is a major passer, can't run at all, and your offense runs on flexbone or wishbone.
Yeah.
Why would they recruit your kid? They're not like, oh, your kid isn't good enough to play at this level. No, they are. They're just not a good fit for our program, right? And this happens in every sport. And so it could be that your kid is totally talented enough to play there, but they're not the right fit. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because one of the ways that someone evaluates fit is by seeing your athlete many times in many different situations, meaning you have to provide a lot of evidence, right? Really important.
That was a great example, by the way.
Which one?
The quarterback.
Oh, you like that one? That made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hold on.
Guns it around, but the school that he wants to be recruited by, they pound it. They like to run or even have a mobile quarterback or run the option. That's not going to fit. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, let me write that down. I'll make a post about that too. This is good. When I'm on here, guys, like I just riff, right? Like these are not planned. I don't, sometimes if we're going to speak for like 45 minutes, I'll make an outline. Like Kate, we've done that before. I'll make like a quick outline. But like all of these where we're just answering questions, I'm just riffing on things that I know. And if I don't know about something, I say I don't know about it. Like international recruiting. I say that all the time. I'm not an international recruiting expert. But Yeah, I'm just riffing. So if something comes off the tongue and it sounds good, then I'm going to write that down so I can share it with more people. Amen. Thank you for confirming what I thought about rankings. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Those drives, dinners are the best thing. That was in reference, I believe, to the memories that I was talking about in recruiting, how recruiting sucks and it's not fun, but there's memories that are made, things you're never going to have those moments back. And I cherish those memories with my dad. And I think if you asked him, he'd say the same thing.
For sure.
Mark says totally been worth it and wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, guys. Like, it's true. If you don't get an offer from a school you like, you probably don't think it's worth it. You probably thought it was in vain. But I've yet to find somebody who got an offer they were happy about and then said that all the work and all the pain and all the frustration wasn't worth it. People just don't say that. They just don't say that. When emailing college coaches, how many emails do you send out before you wait for a response or start reaching out in other platforms? The specific answer to that question, I'm not going to give you. We're going to talk about that at the Email 101 workshop, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. I'll share exactly the frequency that we use, how much time in between each email, how many emails total, what to put in each email, the different kinds of evidence to provide in each email, everything like that. But in terms of reaching out on other platforms, I do want to address this. You can send emails and reach out on other platforms at the same time. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to wait. Now, I will tell you that we typically will wait, but that more than anything, it's just so that families can focus on one thing at a time and don't get overwhelmed. So it's not because that gets better results. You're going to get the same results, whether you send the emails and DMs at the same time or you send them at different times. The only reason we stagger them is because it's less overwhelming for the family. If we're like, you're going to email all these coaches and DM them at the same time, it's just a lot, right? And I'm cognizant of that. So we'll send emails first and then we'll DM. But just so we're clear, if you want to do both at the same time, you can totally do both at the same time. But the only thing I'll say about that is if you're going to do both at the same time, if you get a response on one, shut down the messaging on the other one. So if you get an email response, stop DMing those coaches, stay with email. If you get a DM response, stop emailing them and stay with DM, right? But the rest of that, in terms of the cadence and the timing and all that stuff, we'll be talking about that on January 20th at the Email 101 workshop. Someone just said soccer platform ? I guess they're talking about social media.
So,
if that's what you're talking about, like which platform is best for soccer, I'm going to refer to, again, the trends report that you can go check out if you want specific sport data on this stuff. From that, 55% of soccer players said that email was their primary way of getting discovered by college coaches. So I'm not going to revert to my opinion. I'm going to point you to the data, which says for soccer, it's email. I will also tell you for soccer, this is experiential. This is not based on data. This is based on our experience helping a lot of soccer athletes. That more soccer players have reported getting interest on Instagram rather than Twitter. So I'll mention that as well. Let's see. My son is in a D2 college for basketball. What are some steps he can take to get some D1 attention? Can he do anything with his social media? The first thing is he's got to play well at the D2, right? And I know that sounds obvious, but that's where it all starts, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, can he do anything with his social media? 100%. He should be posting all of his clips on social media. And the thing is, it doesn't even, like, that shouldn't even trigger anything with your current coaches because it's just like, check out our highlights from this week, you know? It doesn't look like you're doing that for recruiting purposes, but it can still have recruiting effects. Right. So that's still valuable for them, for him to do. But the other thing is, like, if you're talking about transferring from D2 to a D1, you're not able to start engaging with other schools until you get PTC, permission to contact. You have to get permission to contact from either the athletic department or compliance. You have to notify your current coach that you're going to do that. And that's obviously a very serious thing. So you should take that with a grain of salt. Only do that when you're for sure deciding that you're going to go elsewhere. But if you do that and then you have permission to contact, all bets are off. Now you're good to go. Now it's contacting college coaches, posting content on social media. Like, everything is full go at that point. How do you guys work with basketball as well? Yes, we do. Absolutely, we do. You have two options right now. You can either attend the email 101 workshop, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. We'll talk about email. Although I will say for basketball, I'm not saying it's not worth it. It is definitely still worth it, but social media is going to be really important for you. Okay. Twitter is going to be really important for you. So if you were open to attending multiple workshops, then this would be a great one to come to. If you're like $129 is steep for me, I'm only going to be able to come to one, I would wait until we do a social media one, and then I would go do that one. Okay. But if you're like, no, I want more help than that, I'm not looking for an email workshop, you can join the program. You can hit it's either d1scholarship.com/accelerator, or you can go to the link in the bio and then go to accelerator on the page. And if you qualify, if you're old enough and all those types of things, you can schedule a call with us. We can walk you through it. Do you ever do profile audits, tips on what's working or not? I'm not sure if I'm optimized on IG or X account. That is exactly the type of thing that we'll do at a social media workshop. So when we host a social media workshop, that's exactly what we'll do. We'll teach on what's happening in social media, what we recommend, all the strategies and stuff. And then what we do is the workshops are always like 45 to 60 minutes of Q&A, 45 to 60 minutes of structured teaching. And then we move into Q&A. I've run a Twitter 101 workshop before. It was awesome. And the whole second half of that workshop was throw your profile in the chat and I will pull it up and look through it. And I go through literally every single one until everyone gets what they need. On those workshops, guys, I typically don't get off until everyone gets what they need. I'm not like, all right, we hit 90 minutes. Have a good night, guys. Like that, which you should know because now we're here on a free live and it's been an hour and 16 minutes. So it's not uncommon for these to go 2 hours. Okay. Where are we at here? And yeah, I think that's it. Kate, you got anything for the people before we hop off?
No, you guys were great today. Good questions again.
Great questions again. Yeah, it's been fantastic. Again, January 20th, email 101 workshop, d1scholarship.com/email workshop. Come hang out. We're going to show you everything we know about email. And then, of course, we will be live again tomorrow. Same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, live every day. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We're on all of them. So come hang out, spend time with us again. We'll be back 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thanks for being here. We always appreciate seeing you guys.